So, when looking at horses that you think might have a shot at decent odds to not only hit the board but possibly get the biggest chunk of this $1 million purse, I think Belle Laura is very, very interesting because obviously you have the Norm Cassie factor, son of Hall of Famer Mark, who basically went out on his own earlier in 2018 in less than a year into becoming a trainer on his own. He has a Breeders' Cup Contender, and she has a victory over the Churchill Downs surface. Now, that might be an advantage at the end of the day. The surface is going to certainly be, it may not be the same as it was the day that she broke her maiden in that race, so that's going to be very, very interesting. But at 20 to 1, if her odds, soar up a little bit, she is definitely going to be one of the, the last minute wagers that people are going to make in terms of looking for a horse to hit the board and or upset this race. I do think the pace will be lively enough for not only Belle Laura, but My Gal Betty, Lily's Candle, who was impressive over the Arc Weekend, as I've said before, winning that Group 1 Prix-Marcel Bousset. Those horses, I think, could really, really close in this race. I think they're going to be horses with forwardly placed ambitions that are going to get shuffled back because there is going to be so much speed. I think it'll be very imperative for Summering out of the 12 hole, being a speed horse, to get out of there because Concrete Rose drew the number 1 and Newspaper of Record drew the number 6. And I think Concrete Rose also has to be alert in the early going. She's definitely going to have to break her. She'll get jammed up in there and end up getting boxed in. So that could be a little bit of a problem right there because Newspaper of Record drew a little bit better and she is the favorite. So that's also something to look at. And as said before, deep closers, mid-pack closers, don't have to worry as much about post position. But when you're going a mile, everything happens a little more dramatically. It's a more dramatic situation in terms of things happen more quickly. It's a shorter distance, and the margin of error is a little less than there is in a route race going a mile and a 16th mile and an 8th mile and a quarter. So, and there are some horses in here that I think want more distance in the future. So the mile is a little bit of a problem, but I do think that the pace will set up nicely for some of these horses to close. Not only Belle Laura, not only Lily's Candle, but La Pelosa, those horses, and My Gal Betty. I think you need to take a hard look at those. Those would be horses to take. And Paquette, Paquette out of the Pletcher barn looks very, very well. In addition, I think the horses coming out of the Jessamine, which was won by Concrete Rose, really look good in here, as well as the Natama, in which the 1-2 finishers La Pelosa and My Gal Betty are funneling in from. I think those horses look really, really good. But again, the European contingent is going to take in some money, be it the Macam Bullet, Just Wonderful, and Lily's Candle. And actually, La Pelosa is a European transplant. Wasn't able to get it launched off the ground, get her career off the ground. Ran reasonably well until she came to Canada and won the Natama, and she seemingly is a different horse now. So I think that with those things being said, those are the horses that are going to give you some value. There's no question in the minds of many, myself included, that some of these horses are going to definitely hit the board. Somebody's got to finish second, third, or fourth in a race like the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf. As Andy Bauer once said, someone's got to finish second or third in the Kentucky Derby and the Preakness. So, but again, I'm sticking with the favorites, as I've said before. I think Concrete Rose, I'm edging, just taking a flyer that she's going to be able to be the one that gets her picture taken. I'm just giving her a slight edge over Newspaper of Record, and most people will go the other way. But again, that's going to create an exacta scenario, or a couple exacta scenarios right there, if you believe that no one can, crack and penetrate the wall, the fortress of the top 2. So that's, really what you're looking at right here. And again, that, people's odds are going to change as we get to post time. But as I said before, my pick is Concrete Rose. I do think Newspaper Record's good enough to navigate a good trip in here. But again, that value is what people are going to be looking at. And there are a number of nice horses in here that will certainly give you that, particularly if they perform well. Once again, it's the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf from Churchill Downs, the home of the Kentucky Oaks and the Run for the Roses, better known as the Kentucky Derby. We'll have a recap of this Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf along with everything else going on day 1 of this 2-day Breeders' Cup World Thoroughbred Championships right here at the CS Racing Report.